Today is December 14th, 2024. I'm Katelyn Gregoire interviewing Staff Sergeant James Laughlin from Calhoun City, Mississippi, born May 16th, 1972. Staff Sergeant James Laughlin is my father-in-law. So, Dad, what branch of, what was your branch?
Engineer branch.
Okay. As a veteran, what wars did you serve in?
I was in the Gulf War, 3 of the Iraqi operations, and 1 of the Afghanistan operations.
What was your rank?
E6, Staff Sergeant.
Were you drafted or did you enlist?
I enlisted.
Where were you living at the time of your enlistment?
Calhoun City, Mississippi.
Why did you join?
I didn't join for like a lot of these kids do today. I didn't join for education purposes. I didn't join for glory or anything like that. I just joined because sense of duty. Felt like it was what I was supposed to do.
What branch did you pick and why?
Growing up in a small town, I didn't know that there was an active duty. I only knew about the National Guard over here in town, so I just joined the National Guard. And because that National Guard there was an engineer unit, that's just what I joined. I didn't find out there was active duty until I got into basic AIT, and then I decided to switch over to active duty.
Okay. So you're in the National Guard before you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I served in the National Guard, the reserves, and did my active duty.
How long were you in the National Guard before you transitioned over?
4 years.
4 years? Okay. Now, what would you do whenever you were in the National Guard?
Oh, we went down to Vicksburg, Mississippi one time, built some soccer fields, built some roads and stuff like that, basic just engineering stuff. Did our training.
Do you recall your first days in service?
Oh, yeah.
What did it feel like?
Back then it was more real Army than what it is today. It was more soldiering, it was more camaraderie, there was more of a sense of importance. You felt like you was doing something. Today's military is not. Since I retired out, things have changed. It's more political now. It's more what they want to call correct. It's just the military today seems to be weaker than when I went through.
Tell me about your experiences in boot camp and training and all that.
Oh, boot camp. You're 18 years old. Most time it's like for me, it was my first time ever away from home. You're nervous, you're scared, you don't know what to expect. But back then they broke you down. They took away everything that you knew away from you and fed it back to you in a way to make you into a soldier, to instill discipline. The Army, we had 7 core values that we lived by. You take the word leadership and you break it down, it's LDR ship. And so when you break it down like that, the L is loyalty, duty, respect, selfless, service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. And they build off that. And if you really look at those 7 values, those also fall in line with normal morals and values, but it's built on a bigger spectrum. It gives you a more sense of being, and they instill that into you so harshly that it becomes second nature. Like when I was in, they had what they called it smoke sessions. If you didn't comply, if you didn't do right, they would take you out there and PT you until you couldn't stand up. You'd be puking over in a corner. They would run you so hard, do so many push-ups, different exercises, but it instilled discipline.
To where next time you thought twice about doing something.
Right. It's just like, okay, growing up, when you're a baby, somebody has to feed you. Then you learn to feed yourself. Well, when you sit down at the table and you got your plate sitting in front of you, you pick that fork up, you put some food on it, you don't even think. As soon as your elbow bends, your mouth opens. You don't even think about it. It's second nature. So your training has to be second nature. Because whenever you're in a combat situation and you start getting mortars thrown at you, small arms fired at you, you don't have time to think. You just react.
Right.
I always said, training was crucial to soldiers coming home. Sometimes things happen, but most time it's just. I think for me, it was my training that always got me back home.
Do you remember your instructors?
I remember some of them. I remember their faces. I'm not real good with names, because of course in Army, your name is on your chest, so you didn't have to remember names.
Right.
But I remember faces, and I remember things they taught me. Some of them set in and stay with you, but we had sergeant majors that would come out and talk to us, and they would, like for me growing up, I was raised on old sayings, like you made your bed, now lie in it. Life's not a bed of roses. Well, we had sergeant majors that would come out there and give us inspirational talks, and they would say things to us. And one of the biggest things that stuck with me over the years, the first sergeant major I ever had, he told us, he said, you're going to have good leaders and you're going to have bad leaders. He said, just because you got a bad leader don't mean you can't learn something from it. He said, whatever he's bad at, you take that, put it in your repertoire, keep it in the back of your mind that you don't want to be that way. And so I did. I've had some bad leaders, but I've had a lot of good ones.
Now, do the bad ones outweigh? Did you have more good ones than you had bad
Yeah,
ones?
Yeah. You always have more good ones than you do bad ones. But you learn from all of them. And you take everything that they taught you, and if you try to turn it into life experiences, and you take it serious, you do better. Everything, the way I am about everything is all because of what I was taught, not just growing up, but in the military also.
Right. Specifically, which wars did you serve in?
Well, Gulf War, all the, like I said, I did like 3 different tours for Iraq and 1 for Afghanistan. I don't remember the operation names. I did the pull out for Iraq, part of it, and I did a pull out for part of it for Afghanistan when we was drawing down. But we went over there, we built a lot of roads and different things. Plus we did humanitarian missions. I went to the border and built some roads for the Border Patrol. And then I went to Honduras, did a humanitarian mission over there, built some schools over there. Panama, we went to Panama back during the Cuban conflict and guarded Cubans down there in Panama. They had them inside the compounds down there, so we had to go guard them. So did numerous field problems, different training experiences and everything. Even in garrison, when we were stationed in Hawaii, I chose a mission right there outside the gate as part of for the town there. Kolikoli Mountain built a stairwell going up beside the mountain there, so people could go up there and just look over the top of the mountain, but it made it safer, Being an engineer, you learn to operate different types of equipment. Combat engineering, we learned how to blow things up and build different defense systems and how to dig fighting positions for tanks and to include basic soldiering, foxholes and stuff like that, Plus, I went to a lot of different schools while I was in the Army. I mean, I did armor, I did hazmat. I was the EO and sexual harassment NCO there for a while, where I did investigations if something happened. Like I said, the Army has changed now. I mean, I miss it. I wish I was still in it, but at the same time, with Nathaniel, some of the things he tells me that he does in the Army now, it's like, I'm like, really? I mean, we're putting that kind of importance on that, but not in training. So, I mean, it kind of worries me for my own son. Is he getting the training that he needs, or are they just having a little field party out there every day? It's hard to explain. Only somebody who served during the time that I did versus now. I mean, I still got buddies that's in that they'll tell you, oh man, it's not the same Army. But I mean, I did my time.
Do you remember arriving, like whenever you went overseas, and how it was like?
Oh yeah, I remember the first time during the Gulf War. We went over there. It was a short tour. I remember one of the first times I ever actually had a gun pointed at me and a round fired. I was sent outside the wire to go dig some fighting positions with the backhoe, and they left me there. My NCO left me there digging, and he had to go check on somebody else. And next thing you know, I had a red pickup pull up on me. They had some Middle Eastern dudes in the back of the pickup. Every one of them had AK-47s. And there I am by myself on a backhoe, sitting in the middle of a desert. I got 210 rounds on me, my personal weapon, my M16, and there I was. That's when it came real. But you like I said, you depend on your training. Not all of those, a lot of American people want to look at the Muslim, and whenever somebody says they're Muslim, they want to sit there and automatically think they're bad people. They're not. Not all of them are bad. Muslim, that's another thing being military, I went to a lot of different countries in my time. And I always was big on culture. I wanted to try their food. I wanted to learn about their culture. I wanted to, just understand. And it's like, when you do look at the Quran versus the Bible, it's pretty much the same. We think about it like this: when they say radical Islam, we also have radical Baptist. Okay, it just depends on how you take the word and you twist it to make it fit your narrative.
Right.
So not all of them people were bad over. I mean, I met being outside the wire. Sometimes you'd have little kids running up to you because they were hungry and stuff. And I'd always have something in my pocket to always hand them. And I remember we was in just outside Balad, Iraq. And we had some farmers that came out every day and was farming. It was a little girl. She couldn't have been more than 2-3 years old. And most time all she had on was a pair of little panties. Barefooted, no shirt. We had went over there for a year. And we come home for 10 months and we went back for another year. And that second year I went back, I actually got some clothes and stuff and had them in a bag and threw them in my duffel. And we went back to the same, I knew we was going back to the same fob, so I was like hoping that I would see this little girl, and I did. And I gave her those clothes. And she would put them little clothes on and come out there and stand below the tower there, and she'd just sit there and smile, wave at me every day, and she knew me by face. And it's like they're good people. They're poor folks just like everybody else, but the whole country was a bad place, and they were getting shot at just as much as we were.
So with that being said, did you see combat?
Yes.
I know you don't like to answer these questions, but it's just one. Really, were there any casualties in your unit?
Yes.
Tell me about a couple of your most memorable experiences.
A lot of different ones. I mean, it's hard to. I remember all of them. A lot of times I just sat around and I just rolled around in my head, and whether it be good or bad. A lot of times, even some of the bad things that happened, I kind of look back on it now, and I try to find humor in it. Like one time, we had just had a platoon sergeant meeting, and everybody else had done went to chow except me. I didn't get back till late, but I had to do the meeting, so I did my meeting, and I decided I'm gonna walk to the chow hall. And you're supposed to go with a battle buddy everywhere you go when you're downrange. And like I said, everybody had eaten, so I decided to go by myself. It was just a short walk. I get over there and I got me a to-go plate because I was tired. I was ready to just sit down and kind of relax a little bit. So I grabbed the to-go plate and I got my meal, and I started walking back. And I had to cross over this concrete pad that they used as a basketball court for PT. And as I'm walking back toward my hooch, mortar came in, landed between me and where my hooch was. A hooch is what we call, it's where we had these containers we stayed in. And so I'm like, okay, mortar that way. So I turned around and said, I'll go back to chow hall. And a mortar landed between me and the chow hall. So I'm like, okay, there's a bunker over here to my right. So I started walking toward the bunker, and a mortar came in over just the other side of the bunker. So I said, to hell with it. I sat down right there on the concrete, started eating my chicken wing. And everybody's running toward the bunkers, and the first sergeant's yelling at me, what are you doing? I'm like, they're all around me. I'm just going to sit here and eat, you know. It could have been bad. Could have gotten worse. But I mean, you know, I look at it now and I kind of laugh about it, you know. But at the time, for Mom, I guess one of her most memorable moments, we had to stand in line. We had a phone center. We only had like 5 or 6 phones, maybe 5 or 6 computers, but you had to stand in line, and everybody got 10 minutes to get on line or to make a phone call. And I always tried to call home at least once a week, check on her and the kids. And I stood in line. Finally, my turn to make a phone call, so I made my morale call. And I'm on the phone with her about 5 minutes, and a mortar came in and landed right beside the building. And it shook the building. I mean, it was loud. And it disconnected the phone call. Mom heard the explosion over the phone, and that's all she heard. And then she got a dial tone. So she didn't know. And I knew that she was going to be wondering, because we all ran to the bunkers and everything. We took some more mortars that night, and everybody was like trying to go to bed, and they got the phone center back up and working. And I went over and stood in line for almost 3 hours just so I could call her back and tell her, you know, just give her a 2-minute phone call, just to say, hey, I'm good. Talk to you later. You know, I didn't want her trying to sit there at the house, you know, wondering
if you were okay or not.
Right. But there was times that, you know, you would go weeks without talking. You'd be out on patrols or on convoys, and there was a lot of times, you know, we have what they call OPSEC. It's operational security. You don't tell your family what you're doing. Some of it's classified, some of it's not classified, but you still didn't talk about it because, you know, it's operational security. I mean, you just don't talk about stuff like that over the phone or over the computer. There was a lot of times that the rear detachment would get word that when something did happen to somebody. And when that happened, they would cut all communications off from the soldiers to their families, because they wanted to be able to, whoever the family is that they got to notify, they want them to notify them first before they hear it through the grapevine.
Right.
And there was a lot of times that, you know, rear detachment would hear that something happened to somebody within the unit. And rumors would go around to all the spouses back there. Somebody would hear about it, but they didn't know who it was. And it might be 2-3 weeks before we were allowed to call home. So Mom didn't know if I was the one, if she was going to get a knock on the door from the chaplain, or, you know. So it's hard on the families. But I mean, I think it makes the wife more independent, makes your children more independent. It's not for everybody. It's not easy.
So that was the only way you were able to stay in touch with
Mm-hmm.
your family?
Now, there, as the years progressed, like the last time I was downrange, we had better phone lines. Uh, I worked in operations then, and it's like I could just reach over and pick the phone up, and I could call home very easily then. Uh, I had my own laptop. We had Wi-Fi. Wasn't very good Wi-Fi, but you had a little bit of Wi-Fi. You could sit there. I could get on there. What was it called? Skype. I could get on there and Skype, with her and the kids, and so it got better as time went on. But first time I was ever over there, I think that during the Gulf War, I might have got the call maybe 2 or 3 times during that short tour. The first long tour I did, it was 13 months, and there was a lot of times there, like I said, you would go weeks. Sometimes you would think, okay, I got some time, let me go stand in line for the phone, but you get over there and there would be 100 soldiers waiting in line, because like I said, you only had 5 phone lines. And so you stand there after about 2 hours, you're like, I gotta get some rest, I got a mission tomorrow. So you just gave up, But you had letters, you could write letters. The Army did really well on getting letters and care packages back and forth.
Now, did Mom and the boys send you care packages?
Yeah. With having 4 kids, she didn't always. I mean, a lot of wives, they were sending a care package off every day, just about. And it would take anywhere between 2 to 3 weeks, sometimes longer, for you to get your care package. So Mom, she did her best. I knew she was doing, I had everything I needed. I didn't need much. I had everything the Army gave me. They gave me food, they gave me shelter. So, I really didn't need much, but Mom she would every so often, she'd put a care package together and send it to me, And it was always welcomed. I mean, it always felt good to, get a box and have some beef jerky or some M&Ms or something in it, that you didn't have access to. And, so it was
Now, what kind of things besides what kind of things would you get in care packages?
Oh, you get, Mom would try to always send deodorant. Maybe if I had told her, look, my socks are wearing out, she'd go get me some socks or send me some underwear, or she would, like I said, beef jerky was always a good thing. She would send a can of Pringles or a little bag of candy or something, just something that, like I said, because you didn't have access to much over there. Now, towards my end of my career, yeah, they started having PXs over there, but, I never, with having 4 kids, the Army pay is not that great. So I wasn't over there spending money hand over fist, I always left the money there for her and the kids. I would take about $150 a month out of my pay, and that's what I had went on for the whole month. And usually I didn't spend all that because, just didn't need that. I always just, her and the kids needed before me. So, whenever she would send me a care package, it was always, it always made me feel good,
How was the food like whenever you were overseas?
Well, they contracted cooks. The Army has cooks. I don't know why, but they get usually contracted to different countries would come over and cook. And most of the time, the food was pretty good. Like if we was getting ready to go out on a patrol or a big convoy, they would set up something special for us, and we would have a surf and turf. Not sure if that steak was beef. I think it was camel, but hey, a piece of steak, a piece of meat. But you get a lobster tail, maybe some scallops. They always fed you good before you went out on a big mission. But like I said, the chow halls were pretty good. Now, when we was doing drawdown, they was taking out the chow halls, so we had to live off mermites.
What's that?
It's food in a can. It's already prepared, already cooked. All you gotta do is heat it up.
So kind of like an MRE.
Yeah, it's like you'll get a pan. It's a metal pan with a metal lid on it, sealed up like a can. And it might have Salisbury steak in it. And what they do, they boil some water and they set that pan over in the boiling water and it heats it up and they take a can opener and open it up. Every soldier, well back then, every soldier had what they called a P-38. It went on your keychain, it was about yay long, and it opened up. And it had a little hook on it, and you took it and you went around the can and you could open the can with it. But it was called a P-38. That was the nomenclature for it. But yeah, food was pretty good. I mean, they tried. That was part of morale. So they always tried to make sure that the food was good, because it kept the soldiers' morale up.
Right. Did you always have plenty of supplies, like the supplies that y'all might have needed?
Not always. I always had beans and bullets, but like for our heavy equipment, there was a lot of times that we had equipment broke down that we couldn't get parts. It would be weeks, sometimes months before we got the part to fix that piece of equipment. But I mean, we always had what we needed for the most part.
Did you ever feel any pressure or stress about the situation that you might have been in that certain time?
There's times. I mean, like I said, I get in my head sometimes and think about things, think about people and situations that happened and how it could have went better. Sometimes as human beings, we are our own worst enemies. But I mean, I deal with it my own way. I don't consider myself a very weak person. Sometimes you just have to compartmentalize it and just put it to the side and say, I'll worry about it later. Not everybody can do that. I realize that. But for me, it's... I'm not going to say it's easy, but it can take its toll. But Mom has always been my rock, my go-to. We just went on this last cruise and they had a veterans night, and he kind of got to me, but she was standing there right beside me, and she don't have to say nothing. Just her being there, but.
Was there something that you did special for good luck?
I really don't believe in luck. I mean, we had guys that did things that, I had these two soldiers one time. They were young, they were just kids. But every time we go out on a convoy, they were both gunners, so they wore the Nomax suits, and so nobody really knew, but we all knew because they told us. But they would wear their wives' underwear. They'd wear their wives' similar pair of panties each, and they would wear those as good luck on the convoys. But no. I'm not. You make your own luck, you know. And a lot of times there was convoys I did come back off of, and I'm thinking, wow, got lucky today. But at the same time, like I said, I really didn't believe in luck. I believe more in God put you here on this earth for a reason. And when it's your time to go, it's going to be your time to go.
Did y'all ever pull pranks on one another?
Oh, yeah.
What were some of them?
Oh, Lord, let's see. Let me think. There was always somebody pranking somebody, doing something stupid just to laugh. I can't even really. I got so many popping through my head. I really can't even think of any real good one. I pranked myself one time though, pretty good. And it really wasn't a prank. It was more about timing. But like I said, we was always taking mortars. They'd catch you off guard sometimes, but I went up into the mountains of Afghanistan to a fob we had up there, and I just flew in on the Chinook, landed. I had my duffel bag, my rucksack, and we had these tents we were living in that had plywood floors. And I did not know at that moment that there was a 155 howitzer right outside our tent. And we had been taking mortars. They flew me in there, and when I got there, the operations guy was like, "Hey, come on, I'm gonna go show you where you can put your bags, where you be staying at." Okay. So we walk inside this tent, and I walk back there, and like I said, it's plywood flooring. So it's already loud when you walk on it. But I took my duffel bag off, and I went to drop it. And about the time I let go of my duffel bag and it hit the floor, the guys outside the tent, the artillery guys, fired off that 155 howitzer. And when my bag hit the floor, all you heard was boom. And I jumped and hit the floor because I thought a mortar had hit the tent. And I laid there on the floor, and I just started laughing to myself because it was kind of funny. I mean, my bag hit that floor about the time that howitzer went off. But there was always guys, you know. I mean, that's part of morale. You want to be serious and always keep your head on a swivel, but at the same time, like I said, to keep morale up, you did things, to keep morale up. I remember one night we went, me and my roommate, he was Puerto Rican. He could not go to bed at night unless he had a carton of milk and some cookies. And he had ran out of cookies that night, but he couldn't go to sleep. So we went out there and we snuck off in the Humvee and drove up to the main PX there on the base, just so he could run inside and buy him some Oreo cookies and some milk, so we could come back and he could go to sleep. And the first sergeant caught us coming back in the Humvee, but.
Where did you travel while you were in service?
Oh, let's see. I've been to Germany, Hawaii, Canada, Russia, Japan, Iraq, Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Panama, Honduras, just about all across the U.S. I mean, we lived at Fort Hood, Texas, Fort Riley, Kansas, Hawaii, Schofield Barracks, Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. We went back to Schofield Barracks for a tour, and then we finished off. I retired out of Fort Stewart, Georgia.
When did you retire?
April 2015.
What did you think of fellow soldiers or officers whenever you were still in service?
I had a lot of good officers, a lot of good higher enlisted. About the time I was getting close to retiring, that's when you started seeing this, what I call a weaker generation. They were more like, you had to watch what you say because you could hurt somebody's feelings so easy, just by saying the wrong thing. And it's not really the wrong thing. We were brought up different in a different era in the military, and it's like, like today's Army. Drill sergeants can't cuss in front of these young kids, and it's like they're 18, they're grown, but yet, you can't talk to them that way. Well, get over it. You can get mad, you can get glad just like you got mad. I mean, but that we do have a weaker. Everybody's so offended nowadays. But I mean, the soldiers I had back then, I mean, I had a really a good group. Whenever I was doing all the combat tours, we had a really good group of soldiers. But like I said, there toward the end, I did, when I was stationed at Leonard Wood, I was the instructor for the Engineer Corps, teaching heavy equipment and to new privates coming in, and I started seeing it then that we had generations that were changing. Times, and now today, like I said, you really do see these kids are soft nowadays, and I blame a lot of that on the internet, video games. We got a lot of adults who run around talking about, well, you can't say that, you might offend somebody. It's like, well, if you don't want to be offended, then don't put yourself out there. Don't seek attention for it. I could go all day on that subject right there, but.
Do you recall the day your service ended? Where were you? How was it? Like, how did you feel knowing that was going to be your last day in the service?
I was at Fort Stewart, Georgia. I then moved Mom and the kids down to Louisiana. So I was there finishing up my out processing. And I remember the last day, waking up that morning, all I had to do was show up to formation and then get in the car and drive to Louisiana. And I remember driving off base thinking I didn't have to put the uniform on no more. And I remember feeling lost because I was going out into the civilian world and I didn't know what to do, didn't know how to act. And then after I got down to Louisiana, I started doing construction, and I started questioning my duty, why I did what I did, because I realized that very quickly two things about the American people. And as one, we have too much variety, and we abuse our freedoms. The way people act towards each other, no compassion, no empathy. and I still feel that way sometimes. Why did I serve so long to try to make a better world, a better country for my kids? Whenever people just act the way they do toward each other. But I'm not saying I'm not. I'm glad I did what I did.
So you're proud that you joined the Army and
Yeah. Uh, I wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, I gave. Every man wants to be able to give his family everything they want and need. Uh, like I said, the Army pay is not great. I mean, we got NBA and NFL players who play a child's game getting paid millions to do it for a couple months each year. But we got soldiers that are living below the poverty level. And it's like, but it's a good life. We always lived in military housing. We made do, and it wasn't a bad life. I mean, uh, I think my kids are better for having lived the way we lived. I mean, it's not like I said when I say it's not. I guess the only thing I would have changed is I wish you could have stayed in one location instead of being moved around every 3 to 4 years, because that's hard on kids being moved around like that. But at the same time, it also builds character in them. They're able to adapt and overcome different situations, and uh, they're able to talk to people, and I mean, I know people all over this country, and they do too. So
I do know that they're able to build relationships with people more naturally, should I say, than someone who hasn't been in that type of situation.
Right.
Because y'all moved around so much.
Yeah. I mean, it really has affected. I guess it's affected Mom more than anybody else, because she moved around a lot as a child, and then she married somebody who moved her around every 3 to 4 years. I mean, this is the longest we've lived in one location since I retired. Throughout our whole marriage, I mean, we've been in this house now for almost 10 years. Nine actually, coming up on 10, but. It's harder on her than it was on me, because I had my soldiers, and then I came home to her and the kids. The kids, they went to school. They had people they associated with. Mom was just a housewife, so she only knew like 1 or 2 neighbors, or something like that. So it was harder on her. She didn't have everyday all she had interacting with was me and the kids.
Right.
But it has made me and her, I feel like, sometimes closer. A lot of marriages don't make it in the military. Me and Mom, we've had our issues throughout the years, but there was that one saying off that one movie. I'm always telling Mom, I'm like, we all we got, and so we made it work, and we're better for it.
What did you go on to do career-wise after retiring?
And now I'm driving truck. I was in construction because that's what I knew. And then being 100% DAV, there's a lot of things I can't do. And then the older I'm getting, the worse it's getting. So now I'm driving truck. But hopefully I'm fixing to be able to step out of the truck here within the next year and
Retire completely.
retire completely, and just now all the kids are grown and doing their own thing. Me and Mom, we can do our own thing now.
Let's see. Did your military experience influence your thinking about war or about the military or about life in general?
Oh yeah, the military. It can institutionalize you. It's just like us. Almost we always used to joke around. It's just like being in prison. You know, it's a way of life, and as long as you accept it and have a good attitude about it, uh, it'll do you well. But it does. I mean, I'm all about principle. It's everything is, it's like we was talking about earlier when I said, the Bible, uh, how people can twist it up. Words are written on paper in black and white. You read it for what it is, word for word. Don't try to make anything else out of it. Don't try to twist it up into your own thinking. As long as you keep everything black and white, life's easier. Because we as humans, like I said, we're our own worst enemy sometimes. We try to make things harder on ourselves. It's just natural. But if you just try to keep it all black and white, it is what it is. I mean, whenever I was, I always had a saying, and when I was in the Army, I always used to tell everybody, it's hard being me. And, when I really think about that, it really is. Because I am the way I am. I'm no better than anybody else. Nobody's better than me. I see everything one way. I feel like that if civilian life, if it's good for the Army, it should be good enough for civilian life. We got a lot of people out here running around. It's not my job. Or, they want to sit there and go, you can't make me do this. It's like, well, yes, we can. In the Army, you either complied or you got dealt with. And that's the way the civilian world needs to be. We have law. We don't need no more new laws. We got laws we just need to enforce. And it's like, but like I said, if you take what the Army teaches you, like I said, you just apply yourself and have a good attitude about it, life's easy. But a lot of people make life harder than what it really needs to be.
Is there anything that you would like to add, maybe about your service, your time, or anything that I didn't ask you already?
No, I mean, like I said, I could sit here all day long and give you my philosophy, and a lot of people would disagree with my philosophy. Some would agree with it. When it comes to, this country and stuff, I don't know if it's ever going to get no better. People's going to have to change their attitudes in order for things to get better. We all got to come together as a country. That's the one thing, that when we went down range, you had 50 people in a platoon. When we went out to do a mission, everybody had the same agenda. Everybody knew exactly what we were there to do, and we went and did it. But yet, if we tried to get 50 people out here in town to go do something, you're going to have those that's going to go, well, why don't we got to do this? or what's in it for me, or I want to do it this way. But no, I think we ought to do it this way. Everybody's gonna be. Nobody can get on the same sheet of music. That's why you see a lot of businesses. You have people when they get off work, they come home and they just so disgruntled. It's like, okay, well, what happened? Well, we was doing this at work today, and I wanted to do it this way, but they wouldn't let me do it that way. Why buck the system? Go with the flow, and it'll go easier. You'll have a better day. Like I said, it's I feel like if we went back to the core values, this country would be better. But you're not going to, people's values are they're gone. I don't think we ever going to get them back. Because we got too many people that, like I said, everybody's offended. Nobody wants to hear the truth. Truth hurts. Truth makes people mad. That's about it, I guess. I don't know. Like I said, I could keep going on and on and on, but.
Well, I want to thank you for letting me interview you today.
Mm-hmm.
I know you don't like really talking about your experiences and stuff like that.
Well, it's not that I don't like talking about it. I just don't. I saw a trend happening here like 20 years ago. And that trend was, it started out with, I don't care. Then it turned into, from I don't care to, I don't give a buck. And then it turned into, people started losing their compassion and empathy. And it's like, now everybody's just like, well, you need to F around and find out. It's attitude. And it's gotten worse. I can sit here all day long and, like I said, tell the people the truth about themselves and how they're acting. And instead of them looking in the mirror and going, well, you know what, he might have a point. Instead of them doing that, they want to get mad at what I say. Because, like I said, the truth, nobody wants to hear the truth. They want to get mad about it because they think I'm wrong for telling them that. Well, it's not, no, I'm not wrong. Sometimes people just need to be told. And if they would just listen for a minute and go look in the mirror, they might find out if they change a little bit about themselves, they might have a better attitude and better life experience. But, like I said.
Well, again, thank you for letting me interview you today.